More Family Day stuff. Time for Brothers' Day in Black Clover. So this is actually going up the week of Brothers' Day, but it's going up a couple of days earlier because I think that'll land when there's a One Piece chapter or so that it's supposed to come out. If not, then this will be out on Brothers' Day, which is May 24th. Give or take. So, brothers. There's actually quite a few brothers in Black Clover, but some of them are just, there's foster brothers. I don't really think there's any setup of like step brothers, but there's like foster brothers, adopted brothers, things like that. So, reincarnated brothers in the form of elves. Take your pick. Yeah. So, first up on the list, we have Asta. And basically for Asta, we have a bunch of the foster siblings that are his foster siblings at the church in Hajj Village, which of course includes Yuno, Rekka, Nash, Aruru, and Holo. And those are all like the other kids, of course, and then, Yuno. Which, yeah, they're rivals, obviously, but they're, the good, friendly types of rivals, but they're also, they are brothers. They are foster brothers. And they have been around each other, their whole lives. And so we do see a really good bond between Asta and Yuno in this regard, and then we also see that, of course, Asta and Yuno take their responsibilities to a degree as like kind of the oldest of like these foster siblings group very seriously, because for them these are their siblings, these are their family. Same thing with the father at the church is basically like their father, which I'll get into more on Father's Day. And of course, Asta and of course, do everything that they can in regards to trying to protect their siblings and such, helping provide. They both send back money back to the orphanage at the church, so that way they can have better food than just the really weird potato things that they eat, and such. How much they care about them. They go back and protect the church when everything is happening with the elves, and the Eye of the Midnight Sun set up. They're very protective of them, and of course their siblings are also very proud of them. Their foster siblings are very proud of them in regards to what they've been able to accomplish in becoming magic knights and everything like that. Also, I guess when they found out that Yuno is a prince, I guess that would be one thing to find out that your foster brother was a prince all this time. It's just like, type of a thing. So there's that. And then also, for Asta, he has Libe, who is, of course, his adopted brother, because of the fact that Libe is, of course, adopted by Richita, Asta's mother. And, they don't know for the longest time. I don't even know if they fully figured it out yet. Libe may have figured it out, but I don't think that Asta has fully figured it out yet that Libe is his adopted brother, basically. I don't know if we've ever gotten full confirmation of that, if he knows or not. I don't think that's going to change Asta's opinion of Libe. It might be like Asta may want to find out a little bit about his mom, but I don't see there being a reason why Asta shouldn't find out. I think that would make sense. That would be an interesting way of like Libe, like at the end of the story, telling Asta, there's something I need to tell you. What? It's about the woman who raised me. She looked a lot like you. And like just go through that. I was like, I think she was your mother. And like just whatever that ends up being, of course. And the fact that like Libe is Asta's devil from like inside of the grimoire, that was, of course, Richita's grimoire, and then she sealed him inside of it. And of course that previous grimoire, I believe, was designed to have belonged to Licht, and go through that setup. So there's that whole bit there. Next up, kind of already mentioned, but of course, has, the other Asta and the others from the orphanage as his foster siblings. He doesn't really have any other siblings besides that, simply because of the fact of like his parents were overthrown and his father was killed before he could have any other siblings. So there's that. As I said, he pretty much just like Asta, they send money back to the church and everything else. They're very protective and proud of their younger siblings, and their siblings are very proud of them. So there's that. Next up, we have the Silva family and the Silva brothers. So, of course, we have Nozel, who is, of course, the eldest of the Silva siblings. And then we have Solid, who is the younger brother. And, of course, as we see throughout the course of the series, and I touched on this with some of the various other videos I've done where I've discussed the Silva family, Nozel is aware of the fact that his mother had this curse and that it has been, that it was affected by Noelle and everything like that, but he doesn't hold that against her. But he spends so much of, Noelle's whole childhood just, ignoring her, basically, because he sees so much of their mother in her, and he wants to keep her safe, but he also wants to keep her distance because he doesn't want to feel like he lost his mother again. Which is why I love the fact that we get the scene in the little dream world when Dorothy and Noelle are talking, and she makes the dream version of Nozel that is just fawning over Noelle, and Noelle is just creeped out, which is hilarious. I love it I love that scene. And of course, Solid has of course been a very horrible brother to Noelle. Because of course him and Nebra are the two that, are the ones that basically torture Noelle her entire childhood, blaming her for their mother's death, being, horrible to her and saying that she can't control her own magic and all of that stuff, even though Nozel is well aware of the fact that Noelle is probably stronger than both of the other two combined once she's able to use her power. So there's that. Also, who names their child Solid? I don't get that, but whatever. Also, he doesn't follow the naming scheme of Nozel and Nebra and Noelle. I was just give him an S name. It's fine. I don't know. Just whatever the heck Asier was doing there. I'm not sure, but whatever. And we've never seen their father. We know their father is, I believe, connected to the Vermilion family, I think, but I don't think we get any other information about that. But we have them. And of course, Noelle and Nozel have semi-fixed their relationship. It's not perfect, but it's better. And Nebra and Solid are finally having to eat their own words in regards to how they've treated Noelle over the years and such, and had to eat some humble pie there, eating crow and whatever version you want to take that. So that's what they've got there. Next up, we have kind of the first set of Vermilion brothers. We have Frigolion and Leopold, who are, of course, brothers to each other, but also to Marileona. Marileona will get discussed in the Sisters Day video, as will all the rest of these sisters in a little more detail. So obviously Frigolion is the eldest out of these three siblings, I believe. And then, Leopold's the younger. Actually, is Marileona the oldest, or is it Frigolion? I can never remember. They're both so close in age, but Frigolion is the one that goes on, is kind of the current head of the family, although we don't know that much about their parents. And Frigolion is, the current head of the lions, the golden lions, or the fire lions, whatever they're called. Crimson Lion. Yeah, the Crimson Lion Kings. He's the current head of that. And of course, we, currently what we just saw in the manga and everything like that with what Marileona is doing and everything, and having her brother showing up to support her. We know that Marileona stepped in to take over as the captain of the Crimson Lion Kings when Frigolion was in his coma after he lost his arm. We also see quite a bit of Frigolion and Leopold supporting each other and also supporting Marileona. And of course, Leopold wanting to put his, full amount of dedication into training under either of his siblings. And he just admires both of them so much. And those three seem to have a pretty good relationship. I mean, Fergolion and Marileona do have like this competitive streak that comes out quite a bit as they're growing up and having, the sister that ends up being the, that is like their former nanny plus former member of the Crimson Lion Kings plus now nun who takes care of Marie. Them being around her and she has to like put them in their place every now and then, which is just funny. Yeah, the two of them try to compete over things. Fergolion is very much on the proper side of like, etiquette and everything like that. And then Marileona is very much on the side of like, I want to go fight something. I need to fight something big. And go train and swim in lava. I'm like, okay, girl, you just have fun with that. So there's that there. Next up, we have, and I can never pronounce this guy's name correctly, and I'm sorry, Krish, whatever, who is Vermilion, who is Mimosa's brother. So, he's like the cousin, and him and Mimosa are like the link between the Vermilion and the Silva families. So he is the very things must be beautiful, I am amazing, blah, 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 blah. He's, as I said, he's Mimosa's older brother. He is, I think he is technically still like the second in command of the Coral Peacocks, in regards to that underneath Dorothy. And he actually was, because she was asleep so much, he was kind of running the show with the Coral Peacocks. We don't actually see that many of the Coral Peacocks, if I remember correctly, but he's there. And I know it's not his role as brother, but I love the fight that he has to do where he's teamed up with Magma and Soul, and they have to fight, and all Magna and Soul and like all that bit. That's just a funny fight during the little competition thing that they have. So that's just adorable. I'm sorry, that's so funny. And such. And Mimosa is so annoyed with her older brother because he's just so flamboyant and egotistical, but he can kind of back it up because he is quite strong. I mean, he's a vice captain, so he is quite strong. So we have some of that there. He's very, as I said, he's flamboyant. I'll give him that. So he's in the right setup there. But, so he does care about Mimosa. He does care about her, and they do care about each other, but we don't see a huge amount of interaction with them most of the time. We see bits and pieces. I don't even remember if we knew she had a brother until, he was introduced during that little tournament thing that they had. But yeah, so there's that. Next up, we have Gauche, who is, of course, Marie's older brother, and of course, so there's that whole interesting setup there. Gauche adores Marie, and I can't blame him for that, but he does have the creepy older brother liking the younger sister vibes, which is what's supposed to be like his trope. The little bits that we do know about them is that their parents died, and that they were members of, I believe, like at least a noble ranked family, not a royal ranked family, but a noble ranked family. And that because of what happened, all the other people who are like the executors of the estate took that estate from them and took the money from the kids, and then they had to like go on the run. And then we know that Gauche spends so much time, he's on the run, and he's trying to take care of Marie, and he ends up eventually taking her to like the orphanage, so that way she can at least be taken care of there at the church. And then he kind of becomes a thief and everything like that, and the nun does not want him around his sister very often, but she knows that he adores her and loves her, but she just doesn't want him to be a bad influence on Marie, which is reasonable. We've seen the lengths that he goes through in order to try to protect his sister, and of course he loves to spoil her with any toys and gifts and whatever else that he can find, and he falls for so many people being like, oh, your sister will love this, your sister will love this, how about these new clothes, how about this dollhouse, how about these giant stuffed animals? Perfect, I'll take it all. Well, your paycheck is now gone. Darn it. Not that he cares, because he wants to spoil her and he thinks that she deserves the best of everything. So there's that. And he is, of course, just very protective of her, and he is grateful to Asta for protecting Marie when she is being accused of, the devil possession during the trial. He does appreciate Asta protecting her in that regard, so that way she's not hurt or given, punished for something that was beyond her control. So I know that he appreciates Asta for that, but he also just does not like Asta being around his sister because because Marie likes Asta. She thinks he's cool. And Ghost is like, damn it, type of thing. Ghost does not like that. Flip side of that, or the possessed side of that, we of course have Drowa, who is one of the elves, and then his sister Eclat. And they are the two elves that possess Ghosh and Marie. And Drowa is the brother in this setup, and he is very protective of his little sister. I don't know if it's supposed to be implied that they have a similar thing, or if it's still he's just protective of her, but not to the creepy extreme that Ghosh is protective of Marie. We don't see them interact too much. It's mostly just during the bits because Eclat's power is... it's implied that Marie is probably going to end up having a type of mirror magic like what Ghosh does once she's older and once she gets her grimoire and comes of age. That she'll probably have similar magic to him. Since sometimes siblings tend to have similar magic depending on, what's within the family line. All three of the Vermilion siblings for the main house have, firepower. The Silva siblings are kind of split. Some of them have metal power, some of them have water magic. Metal manipulation power and then water manipulation power in the form of Noelle. So it would make sense if, Marie ends up having a similar power to Ghosh, but the Eclat, the elf, has, kind of mirror magic in her eyes. And Drowa, again, he seems very protective of her, but we don't get to see that much of them, but they are eventually able to pass on safely. Next up, in connection to the Black Bulls again, we have Notched Faust and Morgan Faust. And of course, Notched is, of course, the current second in command of the Black Bulls. And Morgan is his twin brother, who was originally friends with Yami. And of course, we see this whole backstory that we got. Well, we haven't got to it in the anime, but we'll probably be getting to it in the anime when we get the anime back. I think it's supposed to come back either this year or next year. I don't remember. It's been on hiatus for a while, and I don't know why, but whatever. Hopefully we'll be getting it back soon. They've got a whole rest of the half of the war against the Spade Kingdom to deal with, and then we've got the current arc that isn't finished in the manga yet, but will hopefully be finished by then. But so we've got a lot there, but Morgan took more after the light side of magic, and Notch very much went down the dark, the Faustian deal, the deals with devils and everything like that. And they were very different, and then everything happened, and eventually Morgan died, unfortunately. And Notch then kind of took over, or became, Yami's second in command in the Black Bulls, because they had also just been friends. And then, because it had been him and Yami had been friends first. Noct and Yami had been friends first, I believe, and then Yami and Morgan became friends because they were both part of the Azure Deer, the Silver Deer, whichever you want to call it, the Gray Deer, whatever variation. They were part of that group together, and then eventually Morgan died. And now Morgan has currently come back as one of the Paladins, being controlled by Lucius. So there's that. Lucius will get mentioned later. Next up, we have Fenril, Rulicase, and Longris Vaudet. And they are, of course, half-siblings, half-brothers. And Finral is the oldest, but Longress is the one who has had like this higher rank because, as I mentioned with Longress's mother, Finral's stepmother, in the previous video, on the Mother's Day video, Longress has, appearance-wise, a much stronger power than what Finral has had. And she's like, oh, so he should be the heir. My son should be the heir, not Finral. Not this lazy boy whose powers barely do anything. Just makes portals. My son can do so much more. And Longress very much takes to that opinion of himself and the fact that, he believes that he is so much better than Finral. And he, of course, has like this arrogance that goes along with it, even though I believe when they were little, they actually got along quite well until Longress's magic started to develop. And then that's where like the rift started to happen. And as much as Finral knew that he did want to protect his brother, he eventually got much more overshadowed by his brother. And of course, as Longress, became a magic knight and moved up in the ranks and eventually, became the second in command of the Golden Dawn. In that regard, Finral just got less and less sure of himself. And then, of course, there's the fight that happens during, like, the little, tournament arc that they have. And, Longress almost kills Finral, and then Finral is in a coma for a while. And then when Finral wakes up, Longress is possessed by one of the elves, and Finral is the only one that can finally get through to him and actually defeat the elf and save Longress. And that results in Longress is now like knocked off his high horse, and has to start thinking about stuff. And, stuff happens with Yuno in this regard as well, where there's, instances that happen with Yuno in this regard as well that also affect Longress's confidence in himself. But there's also this other side of things where we get a little bit more of, like, the humorous side of Longress and the fact that, like, because Longress's fiance, who I can never remember her name, she was originally Finral's fiance, and then she got transferred to being Longress's fiance. And Finral actually has legitimate feelings for her, and he is trying to prove himself that he can, resist flirting with women and everything like that, that he can try, he's been working really hard on not flirting with women all the time, on not, flirting with Noelle or flirting with Secker or flirting with blah, 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 and any other random women that tend to pop up. He's trying to work really hard at that because he only wants to be with the other girl, who I cannot remember her name, I'm sorry. Where he only wants to be with her because he's figured out that he does care about her, and he has cared about her this whole time. He just thought that she was out of reach now because she was engaged to his brother instead of him. And Longress actually kind of wants Finral to succeed in this because, like, him and the girl are, like, they're friends, and I think he would be fine marrying her, but I think he also feels that he owes it to Finral to give him a chance to try to redeem himself in her eyes. And so we see lots of bits, and I think a little more is added in the anime where they see the two of them, Finral and Longress and the fiance, out watching as Finral is trying not to flirt with other girls. It fails miserably at times, but he's clearly trying. And he's made some progress, as we've seen with, like, the time skips. He's made some progress, but not as much as people would like, or as stuff would like. But, I mean, old habits are hard to break, particularly ones that are ingrained as that. It's like trying to get Sanji to not want to fight Zoro for silly reasons, or not want to, bring Nami and Robin the most fancy dessert you can think of just because they asked him politely to bring them something, a dessert. It's like trying to get Sanji to not do that, which is just hilarious because I love that setup there. Although I do find Finral's flirting less creepy than Sanji's, in all honesty. I would like it if we got to see Finral and Longress actually have a fight where they fight together against one of the enemies. I don't know who, but that would be nice. Next up, we have Gordon Agrippa and his sister Roxanne. So, for a while in the story, we didn't even know that Gordon had a sister. And then everything happens where like Asta gets like, the curses on his arms. And, and then later on he's like, Gordon's like, well, I think what we're going to do is we may have to go and talk to my family because they actually know a lot about curses and poisons and things like that. And then they go and we're introduced to Gordon's family. And I already talked about his mom and his grandmother in the previous video, and I'll talk more about his father in the Father's Day video. But then we find out that he has a sister, and she looks. The whole family just looks so similar to each other. It's just like, who's who in this family? Who married in? Why is this like this? Help type of thing. But there's not much. We get to see a little bit of the interaction between Gordon and Roxanne, but there's not a huge amount there. We don't know what type of magic she has. It might be similar to Gordon's, like poison type magic or something, but we're not sure. I don't even remember if we know her age off the top of my head. But there's like all of that involved there. We might see her again at some point in time. I can't think of a reason why. We know Gordon is at least trying to repair his relationship with his family because he thought that they just made evil curses and everything like that. And then it's realized his father was like, no, I've been studying them so I can make like cures for them and not curse people and actually cure people of being cursed and stuff. So there's that. Next up, I have Lumiere, Silvermillion, Clover on this list because he is Tetia's brother. And, Tetia is, of course, the girl who marries Lich and everything like that. And, Lumiere and Lich are brothers-in-law. So there's that applies there, too. So I did want to mention that. Lumiere does love his sister very, very much, and he's fully supportive of her relationship with Lich. And all of that. He is all, very, very, happy for the two of them. Not too much there. We know that he is, of course, distraught when she is killed, when the elf village is attacked and everything. And I can just... Okay. We don't get to see it in the series, but I would have loved to, if Lumiere had gotten to actually be an uncle to Tetia and Lich's children. He would adore them so much. He would spoil them so much. They would have so many awesome, like, adventure little things that they could go on with him. And that would be so wonderful, and it's so sad that it didn't happen. Because Lumiere is, like, he adores his sister, and him and Lich get along great, and he would adore any nieces and nephews that he got. And such. But, that's the point of the series, is like, well, bad things happen there, and that's why this didn't happen. So... what else can be changed? What else can be done better? So there's that. Next up, we have Yami Sukahiro and his sister, Ichika, who is, of course, kind of, she's kind of the only remaining of the Yami clan at this point in time. But, yeah, Yami and Ichika did not have a very good relationship when he left, simply because of the fact of she was under the impression that he killed their whole clan, when he is aware of the fact that she is the one that actually did it, but he wants her to think that he did it so that way she doesn't carry that guilt all these years. And that's why, why he was okay that he left. I don't remember if we've gotten an actual reunion between the two of them in the manga yet, but that'll be interesting whenever we get around to it. We don't need, Yami doesn't even mention that he has a sister, and then when Asta finds out when he ends up in, like, the land of the rising sun setup, that's basically Japan, in the Black Clover world, that he's just like, yeah, well, she's like, yeah, I'm Yami's sister, and, just don't ask me any questions about him because I hate my brother. That's all we get, really, for a long time. And then we find out that, oh, she was the one that actually did it, and now she has to deal with that, and hopefully her and Yami can fix their relationship. We'll see what happens. Next up, so I have Rebecca Scarlet, who is the kind of the peasant girl that kind of has this crush on Asta. She is listed here simply because I know that she has like a couple of brothers. So like her brothers, and she's the one that takes care of them. I just kind of wanted to mention her here a little bit, talk a little bit more about her in the Sisters Day video. Then we have Kayato and Kohono. And Kayato is, of course, they're, of course, the two children / priest and priestess of the Seabed Temple. Their grandfather is, like, the guy that's currently in charge of the Seabed Temple. And then, of course, their father is, of course, another one of the priests and everything. And Kayato is, of course, he wants to become this famous dancer and everything like that. And he does, like, these water dances and stuff like that with his blades. And of course, and he is a very supportive brother of Kahano, and of course, they are very supportive of each other. They're a big deal during the Seabed Temple arc. We saw them again a little more recently, I believe, when Noelle went and got her Leviathan pet, her new pet Leviathan. But there's that. I wouldn't mind seeing them show up and help fight, but I don't know if they would be strong enough to really help with too much of the fighting, but it would be interesting to see if they did. Just in that regard. They seem to have a very good relationship with each other as brother and sister, so there's not much else there. And finally, the Zoigratz siblings. So there are the 3 Zoigratz brothers, and that is Dante, Zenian, and then Lucius, who we found out about the most recently. So, Dante and Xenon are, of course, kind of the two that we've spent the most time with because they're the ones. Dante is, of course, the one that Asta ends up fighting, and then, of course, Xenon is the one that ends up fighting and such. So, well, Dante has also fought, I believe, by Magna, I believe also happens there. So there's those moments there. And they're, of course, brothers to each other. And then, of course, all of them are brothers to Vanica. And via technicality, they are also brothers to Julius Novachrono. Because of what we find out about Lucius and Julius, which I'll get to in a moment. Of course, we know that mostly Dante and Zenon and Vanica, of course, are the Dark Triad. And, of course, I will eventually get to them when I get to the rest of the royals and such for Black Clover. But I just haven't gotten to them yet because I'm waiting for whatever information stuff for us to actually watch stuff in the anime whenever that happens. But eventually I'll have to cave and do it. But we'll see what happens there. And the siblings do seem, I think, to a degree, genuinely care for each other, or at the very least, the Dark Triad do. Lucius, I really don't know if he actually cares about his siblings one way or another. I'm not sure. I don't remember if that's ever explicitly stated. I mean, Zenon's dead, I believe. And then I think Dante and Vanica have been locked up, and, like, I don't remember if they're, like, stripped of their magic or something, but hopefully they have something on them that can prevent them from using their powers. As far as I'm aware, I don't remember seeing them for a while. And then we have the case for Lucius and Julius. And I talked a little bit about this when I talked about Julius for the Royals and Rulers series as the Wizard King setup. But the way that it supposedly works is that Julius and Lucius are, like, soul twins, and they, like, share the same body, but they have different personalities, and based on which personality is in control of the body physically changes to represent that one. And that Lucius has been, like, the older brother figure to Dante and Xenon and Vanica for however long. I don't remember Julius's exact age. I think he's like 40 something. That he was there while they were all young enough, but we don't really get that much information about him. We just find out near the end of the arc with the Dark Triad that, oh, they had another sibling. So who's this other sibling? And then when everything happens with Julius, when that when that reveal takes place, that Lucius is inside of Julius, and that Lucius has just been allowing Julius to be in control all of these years, while just observing everything in the background. And if he ever did take control, it was when Julius wouldn't notice and such. And then now he's the one that's in control and causing a lot of problems. Bringing out devils and having them possess people and blah, 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 and make them into paladins and force them to fight their own family or their own children or whatever the case may be. So there's that. We haven't gotten the conclusion to this. I don't know if there's going to be something where, like, Julius is able to fight through. I kind of want that to be the case, but I don't know, because I don't know if we've gotten the full answer of whether or not Julius is fully, like, dead inside of Lucius' control or not. But we'll have to see what happens. So that's what I have there for Brothers' Day. Next up for, I believe these will be Father's Day, and that'll be in June. So next month at some point. So that's what I have. I thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I hope you have a nice rest of your day. Bye.